Hey everybody! How you doing? So, this is actually my first video I'm making. Yeah! So this is actually my first video. I have an introduction video ready to go, but all before that, I wanted to make this video here because over the past couple of weeks now, I follow a lot of fan groups on Facebook. And I've been seeing some awful comments about the Orioles ownership. I feel like that I have to address this problem. So basically, to throw out some stats for you, the Orioles as of June 20th, which was yesterday, are currently sitting at 21-53. They lost last night, so they're currently sitting at 21-54. People, I'm not going to sugarcoat that. That is some ass. Like, that is bad. So, like, that's actually worse than last year. You never thought it could get worse? Oh, it's about to get worse, people. The next worst team is the Kansas City Royals. They have a 4-game lead on the Orioles for the second worst record in the MLB. But is this a bad thing? Bad thing, though. Obviously, losing in Baltimore is something that we've just, as a society, become used to. I've been alive for 20 years now. Do you want to know how many times the Orioles have finished above 500? 3 times. 2012, 2014, and 2016. Coincidentally, those are also the first 3 times the Orioles have made the playoffs in my life. People, that is bad. Okay? That is very, very bad. But this is honestly the surface level of just how badly the Orioles have been run for these past 20 years. I could sit here all day and just belliger and just bash the Orioles organizations, but I'm not. I'm not going to deny that they've done some bad things. They've done a lot of bad things, actually. They don't really know how to... For a while, I didn't really know what they were doing. I never really knew if the Orioles could ever get back to that point. Last year, I'll tell you what, ending last year, after Dan Duquette and Buck had been fired, I never knew if the Orioles could ever get back to that point. However, there is a savior in town. This savior, his name is the general manager of the Baltimore Orioles, Mike Elias. So before I get into why I think Mike Elias is the perfect fit for the job of the general manager position, and why I think that he is perfect, he is honestly probably going to be the best general manager this team has seen since Andy McFall, I have to give you guys a little bit of background. So basically, Mike Elias was born in Virginia, and he actually grew up an Orioles fan. So obviously in Virginia, that area where he grew up, they don't really have a baseball team up there. For the most part, you usually get Yankee fans, but for the most part, he didn't really have a team, so he followed the Orioles. And when he was young, he knew that he wanted to become a major league pitcher. So he worked on it. And eventually, his work ethic landed him a scholarship for the Ivy League Yale. And eventually it all ended up in 2006 when he graduated. He did not have a very good career in Yale because of injuries. He had a lot of shoulder issues and arm issues that a lot of college pitchers tend to have. But basically, Elias took this knowledge that he had, and unfortunately, he never pitched another game again. But he took that knowledge and decided to become a scout. This is when a man known as Jeff Loonhow caught wind of him, and he hired Mike Elias as a scout in 2007 for the St. Louis Cardinals. However, that would all change in 2011. When Elias and a lot of other people would follow Jeff Loonhow to the Houston Astros, where Mike Elias would help the Astros rebuild. While in Houston for those first couple of years, Elias took the role of Houston's player development staff. And basically, what his job was, his job was to oversee the minor leagues and basically offer as much help out to the scouts as possible. And he was a huge component of the Astros taking Carlos Correa #1. Because for those of you who don't know, Correa was not supposed to be the #1, the concisest first pick. He was ranked towards like 7 or 8, and the Astros took him 1 to save money to get another big league player, to get another big league pitcher later in the first round. That ended up being Lance McCullers Jr. And basically, and that was one of the smartest moves that ever got done by the Astros, and Elias is heavily credited to be one of the ones who really pushed for the Astros selecting Correa. So eventually, he worked his way up to assistant general manager in 2016. And then he stayed with that role for pretty much his whole entire time in Houston. However, in 2018, Mike Elias left Houston. And he left to join up with the Baltimore Orioles, become the president of operations and the general manager. So, I hear you questioning me in the comments. Why is Mike Elias so great for his job? He's never had a general manager job in his life. Wrong! Mike Elias actually learned a lot under Jeff Luhnow. Sorry, it's my phone going off. I'm going to shut this off real quick. Sorry about that. Elias was the assistant general manager to Jeff Luhnow. Under Jeff Luhnow, he learned how to run a Major League Baseball organization. And that's only one of 3 reasons why I think that Elias is the perfect guy to help the Orioles get out of this mess that they're in. The fact that the Orioles desperately needed someone who could develop players. I'm not going to sugarcoat it, people. The Orioles over these past 20 years have not been very good at developing their own players. They've developed good players. They've developed, like your usual, 260 hitters, 20 homers, good defense, like guys like Brian Roberts, Adam Jones, Nick Markakis. I mean, those are like good players, but are those like the all-star caliber players? No. During that time, the Orioles, to my opinion, had a lot of really good, awesome players, but there was only really one in like the upper echelon of like players. It's like that S tier, like the player that you want to spend money to come see, and that's him. Mr. Manny Machado was the first player that the Orioles drafted, developed, and worked through the minors. And the Orioles, since Manny Machado, haven't been very good at it, in my opinion. We've got guys like Scope, Mancini, Bundy, guys who are good, ranging from good to okay players, but players that never really met expectations, to say the least. And now we have a guy who literally was a former scout, who studied player development in Houston, and now this guy's going to be our general manager? Yes, please? Are you kidding me? We need someone like this. We need someone who can help the Orioles get back on track, and the only way the Orioles are ever going to get back on track is if we decide that what we've been doing all these years and all these times was wrong, and we decide that it's time for a change. And that's exactly what the Orioles got with Mike Elias. You see, like the number 2 reason is that we need someone who was experienced with player development, along with being a very good GM. Elias has a knack for catching talent. Look at the guys he picked up in the offseason. Guys like Dwight Smith Jr. and Pedro Severino. Guys like that who were just cast-offs in other organizations. And he picked them up, and now they get a chance to play. And now they're showing them what they got, and now they're showing that they can play. Then the third and final reason why I love the fact that the Orioles got Mike Elias is the fact that When Elias steps through those doors, he creates something I call culture change. Now, what do I mean by that? Well, basically, culture change is basically changing a way an organization functions. The Orioles for years were very bad and were very, well, not really caught the times. They were just kind of stuck in the 1980s. If I can put it lightly without really making a really mean comment, they were stuck in the 1980s. It's like they were just like they weren't using analytics. They weren't really forward thinking. They weren't they weren't that good. So what Elias does when Elias comes here, it shows that the baseball people that there is a culture change going on, and saying that we know what we did was wrong, and we're gonna fix what was wrong. And basically, Elias also brought in his own people. Elias has brought in a man known as Sig Mejdal. Honestly, I can make a whole entire video just on Sig Mejdal himself, but basically Sig Mejdal was one of the first people to really use analytics. Analytics are advanced stats that have shown to really help a lot of players. And now the Orioles are trying to build up that staff. And it's amazing. And right now the Orioles and Mike Elias have promised that it will be the largest signing period for international free agents that the organization has ever had. Yes! Thank you! The Orioles have always been bad, atrocious in the international market. And now the fact that they're jumping headfirst into it with the relationships that they have, these signings are immediately gonna be like a shotgun, and like throughout the whole entire MLB organization, showing that, hey, the Orioles want to change, and the Orioles are going to change. And I shouldn't have to really mention this, but the Orioles just got off of a really, really impressive draft, where they drafted a lot of high-end talent, including Adley Rutschman, one of the most advanced catchers that collegiate baseball has ever seen. So there's that. But outside of that, the Orioles also have the 13th best farm system according to Bleacher Report, if those draft picks get signed. Without those draft picks, we're still around like in the 20s, but with those draft picks in hand, we're in the 13s, which is still just above middle of the road. So you're just above average. But again, it's a work in progress. And not even a year in, and we've already taken that big of a jump? How can you not be excited? And lastly, I have a question for the people who still doubt this organization. Do you think that Peter Angelos would have hired Mike Elias? No. They don't. Peter Angelos is gone, and I'm willing to give the brothers a shot. Because you know what? They brought in the baseball people. They're not going to meddle. You know what? If they would have meddled, then they're not going to meddle, because they've shown me that they aren't meddling. You know, I saw the Orioles draft room. I didn't see them in there. You know, and I think Mike Elias is the perfect guy for this job, because he has three core components to him that makes his job so much more easier. And what he has to do is going to be a lot easier because he's just that talented. So anyway, I have another message for the people who are still here and who trust Mike Elias, and the people who trust this organization that eventually they're going to break out of this. Or for the people that are unsure if this is ever going to work, I can't tell you enough to go follow the minor leagues. I'm not saying we're the best minor league system, but we got some young players down there doing very good. I want to talk about that next time, but we got some young players down there playing some very good ball. And try not to look at the Major League roster right now as it stands. Just know that that's not your team. You know? This is not your team. Your team's in high school and college. Some of your teams probably even down the minors. But yes, we are in year one of a very long rebuild, and we have to trust Mike Elias. Why? Because he knows how to run a baseball organization. He has a heavy player development and scouting background, and an international background, and he's introduced a culture change. Anyway, if you guys enjoyed this video, please leave a like, leave a comment down there, subscribe. If you see